and in today's video, we are looking at June predictions for love, money, and spirituality. Now, let me clarify this, as I love to do, so that we're on the same page with this reading. We are both looking at things that are, yes, fun and exciting, that you would be pumped to see or hear about. But we are also looking at things that you need to know. So, for example, when we're looking at the love section of your reading, we're looking at couples, singles, self-love, whatever is necessary for you to know. Then with money, yes, we're looking at money, but we could be looking at it from the perspective of your career, your mindset, what to beware of, things to help you remove blockages, headspaces you can get in order to attract more abundance, or key things that are either helping you or in the way, whatever needs to pop up there. And then with spirituality, I like to view it simply, I just sort of describe it as one vocabulary term to describe that, but it is a very in-between force type of feeling. So we're talking about how you interact with things, how you feel about things, how do you connect with yourself, how do you connect to the universe. It's sort of the unforeseen motif that we are experiencing and interacting with, whether we're conscious of it or not. And basically going into it can help you be more conscious. And when we are more conscious and self-aware and self-accountable, we can really have the life that we want or receive the answers we've always been looking for. So it's sort of tuning into that so you can use it to your benefit. And I'll let you in a little secret. It is funny how many times that when I'm doing these readings, they all seem to run into each other. And it really is just a reminder how one thing that can benefit us into one part of our life definitely can beautifully melt and leak over into the other factors of our life. So definitely, if you find anything that works for you during this reading or just when you're living life, always remember to then practice it in other parts of your life so you can keep benefiting from this knowledge you've gained for yourself. If you are interested in supporting me, I have a Patreon where you also get exclusive content back. It is a huge amount of information that I am just constantly adding to over there. I talk about it all the time. It's a great place. I love it. I love answering questions. I love taking you guys on trips to the spirit realm. And well, I just posted 2 new videos over there. One is a special Reiki encoding session, and then afterwards I go into all the details about how I went about that process. So if you find that interesting, that's there. And also I did narrate a live trip to the spirit realm, and those are always really fun and interesting. I actually, fun note, find those much more differently. They're like a different experience than when my intention is just to go to the spirit realm for myself rather than for sort of other people. And that's the beautiful thing when it comes to interacting with anything, whether that be the spirit realm or your life. Wherever your intention is coming from and what you're interacting with is going to change the experience. So always remember that when you need to look at a question in a new way, a problem in a new way. Can you ask it in a different perspective, from a different light, from a different audience? You know what I mean? Just something to think about. Anyways, in addition to that, I below also have access to that and my courses. Oh, look at the sun coming out. The sun agrees with it. In those courses, I have a tarot course, self-explanatory, and intuition training course, which is a wonderful way to get to the spirit realm, but it teaches you all the tips and tricks and shows you the importance and the overlap, and this is the important part of the course, of how the non-physical and physical run into each other and how you can use that to your benefit. And last but not least, my brand new meditation course. It is what I describe as the thinking person's practice. So if you're someone that has trouble holding still, or you'd like to go even further than just feeling more tranquil in your life, it definitely exercises a new way of approaching it and how these factors can leak over into making you a better problem solver, more creative, tap into a different kind of focus. We reevaluate what focusing actually means. And honestly, these are the foundations that got me into being so good and well connected with everything from channeling to tarot to traveling the spirit realm. It's just sort of my homage podge sandwich of everything I know, of all those things together, and you are welcome to it. So anyways, let's get back to our reading. We got our 4 groups in front of us. Think of yourself with June And I take this moment to, this is a good psychic exercise because people underestimate the way they visualize things are actually not different than how you utilize your psychic abilities. But that's a conversation for another day. I actually have that on my Patreon. But I want you to think of yourself, and this is where you can get creative. You can think of yourself ripping off a calendar and suddenly you see June. You could think of literally the idea of June being like inside your like head or something, you know what I mean? You can think of it as something that you are literally like hugging, like maybe it's in the shape of like a ball or maybe a calendar or a stuffed animal and you're hugging it. Get creative and interact with the idea of June. And you're like, I want to know what my June's going to be like. What's the most beneficial information I can know? And then when you interact with it and you hold on to that for a few seconds, then pick the group you resonate with most, which I'm going to give you a moment to do so. So pick the group that you resonate with most. I'll come back to you in 1 second. Now that you've picked the group that you're vibing with, we can get going forward with this reading. But I do actually have a question. Maybe I'll ask this again in the individual groups, depending on if you made it at the end of this intro. But what are your plans for June? I'm genuinely curious. Are you guys going to go to the pool? Do you have somewhere you're going to travel to? Do you have something you've been wanting to get to for a while? Are you going to just purely relax? I'd love to know. Anyway, so let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1. Let's look at your June predictions by looking at the cards. Starting with your first category, love. We've got King of Wands upright, the Moon card in reverse, and 3 of Pentacles in reverse. And we are going to be looking at these cards for couples, singles, and self-love. So just give me 1 moment to look at everything and consult my spirit guides, and I'll be with you in a moment. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about here is for couples. In the Moon card in reverse, it talks about this idea that you and your partner need to tell each other something. I don't want to say it's like a secret. It's kind of like that. Just something needs to be unveiled from one another to each other. It also feels like in the process that you're coming clean and saying like, this has been on my mind, or this is what I really want, or whatever may have you, that you're in turn admitting it to yourself. Like there's a sense of relief that you're not only revealing it to your partner, but you're almost revealing it to yourself, which is wonderful and cathartic. Fun fact with the Moon card, specifically the Moon, I actually have this information in my tarot course because I went and visited the various spirits of the planets and asked them about their meanings, and I went to the Akashic Records for a lot of this knowledge. And when I was talking to the spirit of the Moon, they said they represented this idea of blockages that you are meant to see and meant to look beyond. Because not all the time do we see these blockages. They can be sort of hidden from us, or we suppress them and stuff like that. And we're referring to like any part of our life. And when you are able to be like, I can see it. I can see there's something in the way. I can see there's something more. There's a sense of self-awareness, self-accountability. There's a willingness to be open and want to search for the truth and have it. But you also develop your skills to find it if you have something that's needing to be found and isn't just blatantly given to you. Sometimes when we want to get to the truth, we have to do a little bit of like, detective work, if you will, for it. And that's very much the case. And this is something to remember in all aspects, whether you're asking questions in the spirit realm to your spirit guides, or you're using tarot, or just in life. Understand that sometimes it takes a couple questions. Sometimes it takes a lot of questions before you find the right question to get the answer you're looking for. So with this being the case, it's this positive thing where you're like, okay, we're going a little deeper. We're understanding the truth a little more. We're both developing our abilities to see it and find it by having this interaction with each other, which is really beautiful. I just want to point that out. The moon card is often connected to ideas of psychic abilities and truth finding and anything involving like the spirit realm and stuff like that. So this is like a wonderful thing that's happening. I will say this though, I do get the smallest inkling where I feel like whatever your partner says to you, I think you're going to be kind of annoyed by it, to be honest with you, just a little bit. But I do get this feeling that after you know the information, you're like, okay, well, now that I know it, I can work with this. Now, I don't really love what I heard initially, but now that I know the truth, I wanted to know the truth, let's move forward from there. I will say though, I also see within this dynamic needing to happen in June, I also see two personality types and something to consider when having this interaction and things to consider in general in your individual personalities. So in one partner, I see the King of Wands, somebody who is incredibly independent in almost I don't want to say flawed manner, but it's like they can be their own self-entertainment. They can make sure they get everything they need. And there is a point where they're not really allowing there to be room for someone else. Where does this other person where's their partner easily fit in if they don't really technically need them? Now that doesn't necessarily mean that that is a reflection on the other person, the other partner, that they're not needed. It's more that this is something that they should consider, that's great, you can entertain yourself and you can give yourself everything you need. Would you like to be in a state of mind that you could allow even more and more from a different perspective and allow that in and sort of add it as a beautiful cherry on top of the sundae of your life? You know what I mean? There's almost a unintentional closed offness that can happen that they're not aware of. And then when they get certain reactions from the partner, that they're like, I'm confused, I don't understand what's wrong. Because they're like, I have everything, why is this seeming difficult? Because they don't realize how they're kind of coming across. And then in the other partner, I see somebody who's almost too dependent. But I want to be clear about this. Dependent on other people's opinions, and not in the way that they're so concerned what everyone's thinking every second about them. It's more like when they approach any project or concept, there's this great idea of like, what do you think? What would be the best way to approach this? Hey, if I did this, do you think it would give me this result? So there's a lot of mediating and compromising and understanding other people's perspectives and integrating it. But the problem is that there's not enough, this individual, this other person, this partner, of their own personality coming through. There needs to be more of believing in their own opinion and whatever they have to offer at face value first, and allowing that to be enough, allowing themselves to be enough. But the thing I will say though is my spirit guide didn't say that this was necessarily an issue. Being somebody who is sort of, think of it all as every perspective and idea of someone else and being woven together as a blanket can make a really interesting one. And you really can fine-tune something to be the best to a certain degree when you are able to see other people's perspectives that you couldn't have gotten there because you didn't live their life, and vice versa yours. But there is a certain point where are you in this quilt, this woven idea? You need to be a part of it too. So it's, and I'm not saying, you might be this person, you might be this other person, but the partner in question here needs to sort of step up to the plate more with their own, like saying to themselves, like, my opinion's enough and that's it. And I'm going to allow that to be the case sometimes. And then still interweaving all of that type of other people's perspectives into whatever they're working on or doing and stuff like that. Now for singles is actually interesting. It's only the moon card, my spirit guide told me. They said that somebody is going to come to you and tell you something that you've been needing to hear. And my spirit guide simply said, I'm going to leave it at that. And This is something to think about because sometimes we can receive information like a declaration, like a secret romance. You find out somebody's into you, but it also might be you're not quite sure where someone else's headspace is at, and then they finally come forward and they're like, this is where I'm at. And it might not necessarily be what you want. It could be exciting and it could be what you want, but if it isn't, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. It's better to not feel like you're waiting around high and dry, wondering why you're not getting back the same reciprocation, and you can better understand, oh, well, that's where your headspace is at. Good to know. I'm going to go find somebody who shares my headspace, and then we can be mutually down to be with each other. You don't seem as interested. Good to know. Or, oh, so you're interested in me this way, but you have 8 other headspaces you're in. I'm sorry. That's understandable. You're in that space of your life, but that's not where I'm at. I'm going to again find somebody who is in my headspace in my life type of thing. So good to know. We love information being revealed, but it can kind of go either way. And whenever my spirit guide is vague on purpose, it is very gentle and loving way that they're allowing you to keep an open head, because sometimes, and I know we talk about the future here, but sometimes it's good to not have all the facts in order to let things play out, and you up to that point when it happens in June, you to have sort of the time you need to become the person you need to be in that moment to take on the information or respond the way you want to. So let it be vague and understand that it can go either way, but know that up to the point until you receive this information, you're becoming the person you need to be in order to feel like you're making the best decisions and responses to what is unveiled to you. So I love this for you because you will get clarity, which is great. And who doesn't love that, so you can figure out what to do next. And then for self-love, it is about the idea of being honest with yourself. June is really a month when you want to be aware of when you're feeling like you're being pulled around by yourself. When are you being too independent, and when are you being too, again, I don't want to say codependent, where I'm just simply describing it as that, but it's not an Empress in reverse type of vibe, or even like a Knight of Cups in reverse type of vibe. It's more of codependence, like you feel you need to have fun, not because you sort of are hanging on to people, but you would feel like you can't get things done unless other people are there. You can't go to a concert by yourself unless other people are there, in that type of way and type of idea. Like you have to be with people or you don't allow other people to join you type of thing. So this is when you want to be really honest with yourself regularly through the month, whether you find yourself with a group of people or choosing to be with a group of people, or you're choosing to be independent. And you want to really just constantly check in with yourself and be real and be like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because it makes me happy, or am I coming from a space? My spirit guide also talked about you revealing secrets to yourself is the best way that it was kind of put. Sort of like you're realizing, oh, am I doing this because I'm afraid people don't want to join me in this moment and wouldn't think this activity is cool? Am I only choosing to go with other people because I'm afraid it won't be as fun if I'm by myself, so I don't even go to the concert because nobody else wants to go to the concert? Do you see what I'm saying here? So really something to kind of moderate through the month. I do find with self-love, it is sort of like a process, if you will. Like people are like, love yourself, but no one understands how to proactively do that. So this is a way you can proactively do that throughout the month, which is really simple. But when you're honest with yourself in that way, you can then just simply do the opposite and do something that is a kind gesture to yourself. Kindness and love to yourself doesn't always have to look like a beauty routine. That's a common thing people say. Oh, go, soak your feet or take a bath. It doesn't always have to look like that. It can look like nice things you do to yourself, and that includes honesty. Now, let's move on to money. Let me move these out of the way so we can just focus on one card deck at a time. We have the Lovers upright, 8 of Wands upright, and I have 7 of Swords upright. Give me 1 second to look at this. Okay, this is all pretty straightforward. So in the Lovers, we have, so my spirit guide said, there is somebody that is it someone they work with? Oh, it's not someone they work with. There's someone they're with often. Okay. The interesting thing here is it doesn't have to necessarily rely on someone that you have a crush on or even are romantically with. Like it can be that factor. Let me see if I can get more specifics. Oh, my spirit guide just said all of them. Okay, because we're doing a general reading. But it can just be someone that you feel like your best self around. So it can fit in any of those categories. All of them are sort of a happy type of feeling. But they said, again, it's so funny we're talking about secrets. They said that there is sort of a secret within that interaction for making money. And I said, because sometimes when you're talking to your spirit guides, they might be referring to an interaction as in the specific person, like as in you interact with them and they're a good business partner, or the interaction as in, oh, whenever I feel really happy, I seem to attract more opportunities. Maybe when I interact in ways with people that I vibe with, I therefore do even better, attract even more, whatever may have you. So that's one concept and idea we've got going on over here. That somebody in June that you either dating, you have a crush on, or you just feel happy with, and this is outside of work, within that interaction, think about how your relationship with money then happens. Do you feel like it goes up? Or maybe it even, I don't get the vibe it goes down, but if it did go down, why do you feel like it's going down? What did you gather from that information? And then utilizing it throughout the month, putting it into action. So again, if you realize that when you feel really good about people, go find other circumstances where you can recreate that feeling, or can you conjure it up in yourself naturally and therefore at all times attracted to yourself. Things like that. Now, the Eight of Wands, this is one of those what I like to describe as unintentional blockages. You don't realize you're doing this because it hasn't happened yet, so you don't know how to compare it, but it's sort of like your brain is thinking of different simulations and different possible outcomes and ways they would respond to things. So it's already working out programs before they've happened is the best way I can explain it. So in the Eight of Wands, there is the potential that if you were to come across a lot of opportunity, a lot of abundance, a lot of money coming your way, there's an overwhelmed feeling with you. And so on some level, your consciousness is like, okay, well, we can't handle that. So we're going to make ourselves only receive opportunities one at a time and really slowly, to the point where from your perspective, because you're not aware that this is why this is happening, you're like, this is too slow. This is too slow. I'm annoyed. I would like money to come in quicker. I would like to get more opportunities to make more money in general, or feel excited about new things in my career. And so this is really simple. You can, first of all, I do always highly recommend going to the spirit realm to work out this type of spiritual work. But you can sit down in a meditation, and I want you to pretend you have a bunch of things flying your way and get into that headspace. Just keep adding to your plate all these opportunities, all this money. And I want you to continuously sort of get in this headspace and say to yourself that I'm not going to feel overwhelmed. I'm pretending I'm you. I'm not going to get overwhelmed. I am going to, in the moment, know what to do. I can trust myself that I will give myself breaks when I need it. And it will feel like one seamless flow, one after the other. I'm in a video game. This is fun. I want more money. I want more opportunities. I like my life being adventurous, and I can handle it because I know that I don't need to have all the answers at once. I'll just take things as they come. I have been doing that already successfully, but it's just been a lot slower, and you're thinking of it's speeding up. You can even think of yourself as receiving an opportunity and pretend a month went by, then receive another opportunity, and then you can imagine that calendar getting faster and faster and faster, and you feel like you're just swinging and dancing and easily handling it. but you want to get into a headspace where you sort of really make that declaration and intention to yourself on an unconscious, subconscious level, where you're like, listen, if we're afraid of this, we can handle it. And you're basically going to have that mantra going forward in June, being like, I am always attracting enormous amounts of money and abundance and opportunities, and I can just handle it with ease. I can always make decisions. I can always get more. I handle things one at a time. It's fun. It's relaxing. I know how to be present and enjoy each moment for the next. And if I need a break, I give it to myself. You see what I'm saying? And then last, this one's really interesting. So again, it makes me think about in this card when we talk about the subtleties of interaction. This one is about the idea of you're keeping too much information close to your chest. So this card looks really dark right now. So let me show you. As you can see, it's a spider. And think of all of this as all this information you know. And at first I was like, do you mean as in like, you know, when you're like afraid of giving away too much information and you're like, oh no, but I have to, it's like, it's what makes me special, or it gives me that extra edge, but then in turn you're not offering it to anyone so no one knows you have it, that type of thing. So it's not like that. I was wondering if it was that. It's more like the act of you giving information is like you're putting out to the universe this idea where it's like, yeah, I'm not just sitting on a mountain of limited so much information and that's it. Of course I can share, because it's not something that is seen as give away or take. It's something that's fluid moving through me. And therefore I'm opening up more information to be sent my way because I'm sharing it with someone. They'll share information with me, and so on and so forth. And you're letting go of this grip of, it's like a different version of limitation, but we want to focus on the idea of it being held through information. So you're going, and remember when we have swords, this is like people can speak to you an opportunity. People can even speak to you the presentation of earning more money. They can be like, hey, did you know that you just got a bonus? That type of thing. So what you're going to start doing over June is when you know something or you've got a little fun fact or whatever may have you, start to be a little more open about sharing it with people you feel comfortable with. You don't have to force it if you don't like someone. With the people you're down with, share it. But always in your head say to yourself, I am going to gain even more information. I am not solely defined by all this information I've held. I'm not giving away a part of myself. And you're just going to do it with ease and comfort. So if you do ever feel uncomfortable, take a moment, take a break, practice it later. But that's what you're sort of loosening your grip on in order to invite more of this even flow of all of that into your life. Now, let's move to spirituality. We've got 5 of Pentacles upright, the Queen of Swords in reverse, and the King of Pentacles in upright. Give me 1 second to consult my spirit guide. Oh, okay, this one's super straightforward. So there's this feeling in June of feeling excluded. Is this solely because of June, or is it like other times in their life? On and off throughout your life. Okay. So there's this feeling of like not belonging, but to the point where it feels like maybe your brain tells you that you don't belong on a larger scale, on a larger level. And obviously that's not really fun, but it's also not necessarily the truth. This is something both my spirit guide was telling me when we were looking at this card, but this is something I personally feel as well. These things are a gift. You just don't naturally mesh with these people. You wouldn't want to mesh with them. They are not how you would like to think, how you naturally vibe, what makes you feel good expressing you. And so to not get along doesn't mean that you're the outsider. It means you're basically being given an opportunity to, you would have maybe held on for too long and you're given an excuse to sort of like let go and find people you do mesh with. This is just a group. when you find yourself not mixing with people, it doesn't mean you don't belong in all groups or every group. You've just run into a couple groups that you've tried to make happen, but just so you know, I'm going to let you in a little secret. It is super normal for most people to just sort of naturally go from social group to social group and be like, it's not for me, they're okay, it's all right, and then just sort of naturally bounce from group to group. It's just they don't view it as they're not getting along or something's wrong with them. They're just like, it just doesn't do it for me. And again, that's not to criticize your perspective, that's just to let you know, like, it's actually incredibly normal to bounce around before you find the people you get along with. I mean, that's a huge reason why when people either find romantic partners that they get along with or friendships, they're so special, because they're like, wow, I really looked, and by the time I found you, I realized how one in a million you are, which is really beautiful. But the problem we have here, and this is something really, this is sort of like what's adding to the problem, but this is something really important that you need to work on, not only through June, but like the rest of your life. Not as in it will be an ongoing issue, but this is like an important thing for you to deal with. That's not only adding to this problem, but sort of like, I almost get this feeling it's like it's unintentionally gravitating you towards these people because you're not in the best headspace. It's pulling you towards something that would add to the not being in the best headspace type of situation. It's like you're telling yourself through your actions and thought process and what you're attracting to yourself, hey, I'm not thinking of things in the way I truly feel and vibe with. And what are those two things that are popping up the most? In the Queen of Swords in reverse, this is somebody who's looking at the truth, but in a very harsh light. So normally when it's upright, she can seem a little harsh because she's just getting right to the point of the matter. She's the person in a relationship who somebody might find like a little standoffish at first, because they'll be trying to dip around and be like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll do this, or what do you think, maybe we could get together later. And then the Queen of Swords is like, we clearly aren't compatible, we should probably move on. And they're like, what? And they're like, well, I respect you enough just to get to the point of it all, and I think that we should just move forward, and I can see the bigger picture, I can see the truth. But if it's in reverse, this is somebody who's saying to themselves, oh, see, you don't get along with anyone, they don't want you around, you can feel you don't mesh around. It's like, to a certain degree, yeah, you don't get along because you're not meant to get along with them. Yeah, you feel off because you don't feel like you're actually getting to truly be yourself. But when it's in this perspective, it's more harmful rather than useful. So it's tough because there's a sort of a grain of truth to it. But it's like, yeah, if you look at it from that way, I guess, but you're spinning it to imply the worst, when in reality, there are two sides to this coin, and you can spin it in the way I just expressed, which is actually the truth that's going to take you to where you're happiest, essentially. Oh, I took a breath too fast. Sorry. In the King of Pentacles, this is somebody who's defining their worth from anything from material goods to physical things. So we want to focus on the idea of physical things. Yes, there is a chance you could be somebody who's like, oh, I don't own cool clothes, but they own cool clothes. I should try to figure out how to align myself with getting better cool clothes so I can fit in with them. There's that, but it's more, and what I'm picking up more for you is like, based on how many times they call you to hang out, that would be like a physical interaction, you're defining your worth and value by that. So if you're not getting a lot of calls compared to somebody else in the group who's getting called and text very often, you feel like, oh, I'm not worth it. Again, this is like when somebody's stuck in the headspace of winning and losing. It is a perspective that is only going to become more toxic to them and doesn't really add up to anything, because that's not really how people are interacting with each other and doing what they're doing. And when you're viewing it this way, of course you feel like you're losing. This isn't how you really naturally would think, or if you could think of living your best life, this is not how you would view it. When you have your dream best friend group, you're not like, they called me very often, so I am winning. You would think, oh, yeah, I'd love to hang out. Or no, I'm kind of busy tonight. I'll talk to you later. And there's a sense of trust of knowing like, yeah, they'll call me again. And you don't think about when they will or how much. You don't have a number in your head. You just trust it. When you're in a healthier mind space, you're like, yeah, I could see things were a little off with us. It seems like we probably need to talk about some stuff. You wouldn't think of like, therefore I am different and it is wrong. Do you see what I'm saying here? So these are things that you want to both check by being self-aware and asking yourself those questions if you're in that headspace. But sometimes when you're really locked into this type of perspective, it's good to just sort of like take a break from it all and just really simplify your life by doing anything else by it. So when you catch yourself thinking this way, just stop thinking about it at all. Don't reason it out and be like, oh, they called more or I called more. Let it all go and just sort of go do something fun for yourself. Go hang out with someone. Don't think about it deeper and just have a good time. And then come back to when you're interacting with people, trying to readjust the way you're thinking about this and change your perspective on it. But be conscious that when you're in this headspace and feed it more, it just doesn't make you feel better about yourself, and you deserve to feel good. So remember, everything's fine. You're just practicing a certain headspace that you're going to practice what more is in alignment with you. Nothing's actually wrong with you. In fact, everything's right. You're naturally telling yourself to go find people that you mesh with better, and you're on your way there. So I love this for you. So please let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love hearing your perspective and what's going on. And I asked this before in the beginning of the intro, but this is totally off of random. But what are you guys doing for June? Do you guys have any plans? You're going to relax, swim by the pool, go anywhere? Let me know. I'd love to know. Also, give this video a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's look at your June predictions by looking at the cards. We're going to start off with the first part of the reading, which is all about love, which is for couples, singles, and self-love. We have Knight of Cups in reverse, Ace of Cups in reverse, and Page of Wands in reverse. Just give me one moment to look at these cards and consult my spirit guides. Okay, so first we're going to start off with singles. In the Ace of Cups in reverse, and I did double check this with my spirit guide, it talked about this idea of being emotionally closed off in June. And I was like, well, do you mean the idea of there isn't going to be someone sort of seeking them out? Like the idea of Ace of Cups being upright normally being the representation of a new relationship? Is this the idea of that, the exact confirmation that it isn't? And my spirit guide said, no, it's more literal. It's this idea that you're just not in a place right now to be emotionally vulnerable like that. The main things we see going on around that is in the Page of Wands in reverse, there's this feeling of even if you were more emotionally available, you wouldn't quite know where to put that energy in the long term. Like, where do you want it to go? What do you want? It's this feeling of like you're both not ready, but even if you were, you wouldn't be sure where to wield this energy and this sort of like inner beacon of light to attract someone and then say to this other person, hey, this is what I would like out of it. These are my long-term goals. This is what I want to experience. And then in addition to that, in the Knight of Cups in reverse, my spirit guide was saying that you're just not in a place to be physically affectionate. That's just not where you're vibing right now, depending on maybe, I want to be as sensitive as I can about this. Sometimes we have experiences, or due to our lack of emotional openness, we just don't want that type of connection as well. They oftentimes can feel inseparable. And that makes complete sense. Now, the beautiful thing that my spirit guide was talking about, and I completely agree with them when they said this, is that this is nothing to feel bad about. That we have a natural system within us to know when it is the right time. Like we're taking care of us. So while I'm sure in the long term you would like to be more emotionally present and feel like there is momentum going forward in this part of your life, not that the goal is to be with somebody else, whoever you pick in this kind of way. It's more just like it doesn't feel good when we feel off in parts of our life or we don't feel like we know where to focus our energy and stuff like that. But if right now you just kind of need time to yourself without that pressure, it's like you're saying to the universe, please don't send anyone. I don't want to deal with it. I'm dealing with me right now. And this is just like a beautiful, natural way that you can trust that you are protecting yourself and you are giving yourself that time to overcome whatever it is that you're going through. And like, make sure not to judge yourself and like give yourself like a lot of love and attention. And when you feel like, what's wrong with me? Why do I not want this? Take those words out of your head and say, I'm exactly who I need to be when I need to be it. And right now, this is who I am, and that's okay. And that's a beautiful part of the world that I'm adding to the world by being this different person. We can only exist with, we need contrast is what I'm saying. And there's not one way to exist in the world, which is really beautiful and awesome. So again, there's no rush. It's not implying anything else other than saying, try to view this time of healing and taking care of yourself as like you know what you're doing. And something to consider that if you would like to explore this in the future and you do feel more ready and know where you want to go and you're like I said, ready for this, that you can also trust that you will then put out the right receptors and basically tell the universe, I'm ready, send someone my way, if that is something you want in the future. Now going on for couples. This one's kind of an interesting one. My spirit guide said explicitly in the Ace of Cups that this is a confirmation that if you were concerned if they were cheating, they are not. They have, hold on, let me just double check something. Not in the least. Okay, I said have they cheated at all? Like maybe they did at one time and now they're not. I was told, nope, they haven't. They're continuing not to, not at all. And in fact, this is sort of like a double confirmation, if you will. In the Knight of Cups in reverse, I was told that even if there was the slightest bit of affection and inkling going towards somebody, it's just fully pulling away. And it doesn't feel that it is implying that there was someone in particular, that there might have been a chance of possible connection. It's more like, sort of comforting that inner part of you. Like, you know, when we're talking about difficult concepts like this, it makes you ask like 8 million questions just to like triple check that you've understood the concept as a whole. So think of this as like your double check answer of, well, was there anyone? It's like, even if there was, in any slight way, anyone, multiple people, just like a general flirtiness, they are fully pulling all their affection away from outsiders. That's how my spirit guide put it. They're putting all their affection away and attention away from outsiders outside of your relationship. Now, I was told that this is sort of more of just like giving you comfort of being like, hey, this might have been on your mind. Don't worry. It's not happening. It's not gonna happen. You're good. But it then pulls back and says, hey, with that being said, let's go to what really needs to be focused on, which is in the Page of Wands. It talks about how you, the person enjoying this reading, need to, over the course of June, really ask yourself, what is it that you're wanting out of the relationship? It's almost like this focus was a distraction from the reality that, like, you have to say to yourself, what is it that you want? And we're talking about try to be as specific as possible and speak into existence what you want. Not just to your partner, but out loud in general when you look in the mirror or you're just kind of, by yourself and you're having a moment to yourself. Say to yourself, like, I'd like more of this in the relationship. I'd like to have more time doing this. Maybe it might in the process even make you reevaluate things that you had complaints about before and you realize, yes, I do want change in that regard, but maybe I do like more alone time in this regard, or X, Y, and Z. Maybe now that I review it, I'd like more of this, but I still kind of like this. Maybe I like it more than I realize. And you're just sort of reconnecting with what it is that you want rather than focusing on what you think the issue is. The real issue is focus and intention. Again, we're not putting this is not to imply like blame is being put on you. It's not that. It's more just like, you want to know the real answer, focus over here, and you're getting it essentially. And then this is just like additional comfort that you can just be like, good to know they're not doing that. Now for self-love, we're actually only focusing on this card in the Page of Wands in reverse. My spirit guide talked about this idea of it can feel frustrating, feeling stuck. And in June, it feels like that. It almost kind of feels a little bit like, let me just triple check with them. Yes. Okay. I was asking this question and they were basically confirming this, that you have been stuck before June and like kind of on and off. It's this feeling of frustration of, again, feeling stuck. That's the key word. This is something always important to know when you are communicating with your spirit guides, whether this be through tarot, pendulum, but you can get really even more nuanced detail in the inflection of the way they're speaking through just straight up talking to them directly if you enjoy talking to them in the spirit realm. Just putting that out there. And so when I was communicating with them right now, my spirit guide was saying how you feel stuck. It's really important to pay attention to those terms. They're really positive ones. It implies you are in fact actually not stuck. Yes, your feelings are valid and that's how you feel, but in reality, you have more control and ability to change the circumstances than you just were aware of until this moment. And now that you're aware, when we talk about self-love, I think this is really interesting. It is an act of caring for yourself when you do something kind. Often I hear it summarized as like doing some sort of beauty care routine, which is fantastic. And I agree it is a form of being kind to yourself. But being kind to yourself sometimes is having a difficult maybe conversation than you're used to having in order to give yourself what you really need. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the act of when people separate from like an unhealthy like relationship, whether that be friendship or romantic, like that's an act of self-care to be like, I'm going to remove that. In this act, my spirit guide said that you're either stuck and you have to ask yourself this honestly and think about the greater perspective. Are you stuck because you're depending on the momentum of outside forces in order to change your circumstances? Or, and then this is the second question you ask yourself, have you really tried every possible option to be proactive yourself to change it, to apply for that new thing, to put yourself in a new environment, to reach out for that opportunity, to try on something new, whatever that may be? And by asking yourself this, pinpointing it, and then being proactive about whatever the circumstance is, and therefore getting yourself unstuck, realizing your true inner strength and power, and that you can do this any time in your life you feel this way, but also it must feel really good to get moving and feel like you're getting momentum again. Yeah, basically that's your act of self-love. So now, let us move on to money. Oh, here, let me push that away. We have the Moon card upright, the Queen of Cups in reverse, and the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. Again, just give me one moment to look at these. It's so funny, that momentum idea. I know we talked about this in the beginning of the intro, but it really does always, I just find it terribly fascinating how much different parts of our life leak into the other one. And this concept of wanting momentum again pops up here. So in the Queen of Cups in reverse, I want you to look at the card upright. Think of this cup and the ecosystem within it as what you would be building that you can continuously depend on financially. This is the idea of when someone builds a business and they have many things that they can sell and they're building up good relationships with clients or employees, or maybe you've set it up so that this place that you work out in the long term, you're making money from tips here, and you know that you get set up for these good tables on these good nights this time, and the list goes on and on, however you're cultivating this environment. And remember, the Queen of Cups is somebody who makes her fortune based on her skills. She is continuously affluent because she knows no matter what, she has in her core the skills to create more and can depend on herself to do it well. So it's both a compliment to who you are and are capable of, but the issue we have here is it's in reverse. In reverse, my spirit guide described it as you keep dumping it out and sort of saying to yourself, you need to reset the environment. It's this attitude of resetting it. But the problem is, because you're constantly resetting the ecosystem and we're just describing it simply as this. Remember, the ecosystem is not just money coming toward you, but coming from you and in continuous various forms that it can exist from you. It's a huge compliment to your capabilities and where you potentially can be at financially, which is great and a very positive sign. So with it being reversed doesn't mean you can't have that. We want to change it so you can. It means you're right on the edge, like you can have it. So in June, there's a sense of keep resetting it. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, that's the reason why I haven't received money. Now, we're going to come back to this idea and have a greater explanation of this and understanding of why there's a constant reset headspace due to the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. But the main thing we want to see here is that because you keep taking on that attitude, nothing is given a long enough time period to, again, going back to that idea of building this environment, that when an environment like this, like a terrarium, exists long enough, this is when new insects join, new bacteria, new whatever, and it's just growing and forming and building something that is even greater than what you thought it could be. So with that being the case, which is really fun and beautiful as an idea, we want to obviously have you ask yourself the question, and this is where the Moon card comes in. The Moon card talks about this being like a major blockage for you. And this is how my spirit guide described the discussion and the problem of the blockage that you want to switch or change or remove, so to speak. You're going to ask yourself, is the ecosystem that you think is so in the wrong for existing, like it's not the right ecosystem to really flourish, is it the cup with the potential flourishing financial environment? Or is it your perspective on what you think it was going to be or could be? And if you fathom that and you face that part of yourself and reevaluate and be self-accountable and self-honest with yourself, like self-aware of, I don't think self-honest is a word, you know what I'm saying, self-aware of it, that in itself can remove the blockage. Because I'm going to let you in on a little secret. And I know this sounds wild, but I'm just telling you this from both personal experience and what I have seen others have success in their life also realizing this. When we are experiencing the universe, everything is a message, an idea, an experience. We're essentially truly having a conversation with the universe. And every interaction is a concept. And you are welcome to change it. Or say, I don't like this, I want to experience it in a different way. That is welcome, just like you would in any conversation with another individual. You can change it and have it be what you want and have a conversation with someone you click with more and so on and so forth. So understand that it is quite mutable. However, when you are given these ideas, you are being given to them to you because you're either asking for it, you want to understand something, or you said to yourself, I'd like to remove this. And so the universe goes, okay, here you go. I'm presenting it to you so you can remove it. So once you fathom the idea, you just go, oh, I get it. That's why I do that. Oh, I get it. I didn't realize I was looking at it in that way, or whatever, have you. Just by simply fathoming it, you are in turn removing it, because the universe goes, oh, okay, so you've understood the concept, you've received the message, we now can move forward from this. This is a huge reason why I'm a ginormous advocate for tarot in every aspect of your life, because you can have the conversation before you even need to go through it. So we're having the conversation. So in June, this bowl gets turned upright. You really get to build that ecosystem and enjoy the full benefits of the Queen of Cups. So with the fathoming of your perception of it and you're changing it, we have a better understanding as to why you keep resetting it. And this is something to consider. Again, same concept. We want to fathom it so we can remove it, but also understand about ourselves in order to not have it keep repeating. It's repeating to put in front of you something to look at. But then the Seven of Pentacles in reverse, it talks about this idea of, it can feel like for you that you're constantly waiting for money. It's like, where is it? I'm being told it's going to be next weekend. It's going to be a week from now. Oh, when's it going to happen? And you keep saying to yourself, it's in the future. When's it happening? When it's happening. This feeling of waiting, one by itself, creates the idea in the conversation with the universe of, the universe says back to, oh, so you're somebody who's waiting for money. Instead of you telling the universe, yep, I have it. Yep, I'm always attracting it to myself. But the reason why you have gotten into the mentality of feeling the frustration and being being focused in a headspace of feeling like you're waiting is because you really enjoy in the process of getting closer to receiving more financial status, or like maybe before you get this big bonus. It doesn't have to always be in between financial success. It can be towards a bigger concept as well. You like to hear some sort of recognition or reward, something. So a comparable idea to this is like, it's really beneficial for you if you were moving towards a promotion. You would want to every now and then hear from somebody who would potentially give you that opportunity to say, hey, you're doing a great job. I've noticed you've really been helping out this week. Oh, I couldn't have done it without you. Things that let you know, hey, I'm on the right path. I'm moving towards this thing. Or let's say let's say you have a business where you sell things, and so every couple sales, you're hoping that will eventually become a larger amount of people being interested in your business. You would hope to see that both from maybe the number of people purchasing whatever you're selling, or you hear more and more interest from people being like, oh, that seems really cool. I'd like to get that thing. Oh, when are you going to have more of a restock, and that type of situation. And it really is like mentally motivating for you to receive that, which, I mean, who can blame you? Who doesn't enjoy that and like that? In fact, I actually implore all of you, if you like something, tell people. They really like it. It makes them happy, and we can all basically be a complimentary party for everyone. But anyways, this is something you do need to, just for the moment, let go of, because it's putting you in a state of mind where you're like, where is this individual recognition? If I'm not receiving it, it feels like I'm waiting, and if I'm waiting, it must not be working. Let's reset it. We need you to get out of that headspace where you were both feeling like you're waiting and feeling like you're depending on that type of interaction from others in order to have the proof that you're doing well. We want you to just start to change your perspective on what you're actually offering is good enough and you are more than capable, and you want to feed during June, just constantly telling yourself, yeah, like I am creating this ecosystem of financial reward. It's constantly growing from within me, around me, and to me. And you're going to put all your energy there, because think of it this way. Because your mantra up till now has always been, I'm waiting, where is it? Why isn't it happening? Blah, blah, blah. It's funny how you got that mirrored to you, and you constantly received that feeling of waiting, lack of reward, not seeing it happening, feeling like you're resetting yourself as much as you are resetting whatever you're working towards. Feed the energy and expectation towards what you want. And no matter what you initially see around you, just keep telling yourself, this is what I want to see. This is what I want to see. This is what I vibe with. This is who I want to be. And you just put all that expectation towards like, yep, I am affluent. I am successful. I do know what I'm doing. I am skilled enough. I'm really happy that I'm getting to feel and be in this state of mind. You know what I mean? So love that for you. Pretty easy peasy solution. And you're basically already there. We're just talking about getting into a different headspace. So easy for you. Now let's look at spiritual. We have got 2 of Wands in reverse, 8 of Wands in reverse. We got that momentum thing going again. And 10 of Wands in reverse. Wow. Okay, I can already pretty much read this, but just give me 1 second to look up a few details. Yeah, okay. This is just what I thought. I'm glad my spirit guide added some extra 2 cents. So in the 8 of Wands in reverse, again, in June, there's this feeling of frustration. Like you're definitely someone who doesn't like the feeling of a lack of momentum. Again, understandable. When we are in the flow, feeling like one thing is magically leading to the next, it is just such an amazing feeling. Who wouldn't blame you for wanting that? But it does become a fixation for you, and it can feel like it becomes a dominant part of your life, and then it feels like all you can really notice or focus on is the lack of momentum. So you're both disliking the feeling and feeling like it is consuming other parts of your life. Now, the beautiful thing is there is a positive sense of like a step forward in the right direction when we have the 10 of Wands in reverse. There is a wonderful, have they been doing this before? Yes. Okay, great. So you've been doing this before, but going into June, you're going to practice this more, which is pretty much somebody who's giving back the work that other people should be doing, and you're giving it back to them. You're constantly saying, this is not mine to, you're trying to make me do this because you're trying to maybe feed on the part of me that wants to get that next spot in my life, that next promotion. So you're normally looking for more to do, and you suddenly wake up and realize, like, I'm enough. I don't need to look for more. I'm not without. You take this. I shouldn't having to do this. I shouldn't having to be overworked. This is the same concept of, it doesn't always have to look like in the momentum of other people, like at your physical job, who's forcing you to do more work. Sometimes it can, an expectation you sort of put on yourself, thinking you need to work harder than you really need to. Again, we're not talking about being somebody who's doing less than, like, it's always great when we put our, best foot forward. But there is a certain point when somebody's saying, I'd like this, and you're like, yeah, I can offer this, that they might ask more of you than you're like, well, I see that you want this, but that's not something I really need to offer. I would need to be compensated properly in order to have that more. Or here's my boundary. I just don't do that. You see what I'm saying? That's, again, another way you can sort of give that back to the other individual type of thing. So that's beautiful. That's something you've already been moving forward in doing, and you're going to keep doing in June. But it's like, as much as it makes you feel like at least something's going on, there's still a part of you that senses, again, that lack of momentum that's very frustrating for you. So here is our more definitive answer to move you really forward. In the Two of Wands in reverse, it's a little bit of a I'd say it's a little bit blunt, but basically it is saying, hey, you have been planning for a while what you would like to do going forward. Maybe these are plans that involve you, like maybe it doesn't have to do with like a business or something. Maybe for a while you've had a hobby you wanted to interact with. You've always wanted to see certain people in concert or like go travel somewhere. And this is saying to you in a very loving but straightforward way, you have had these plans for some time. You have been waiting way too long. Act on them. Go and do it. You are capable. You already know what to do, but the lack of momentum just comes from you acting upon what you do already know what to do. So, like I said, you're in a really good spot because there's a lot of, like, sometimes there's some people, they just really are totally without a plan in the sense of, what project they want to work on or whatever. There is a part of you that's like, yeah, I would, if I could do anything, I would do this right now. Go do it. Go make it happen. You have been sort of harboring this inside you, and this is sort of your lesson from the universe to notice whenever you're feeling a lack of momentum in your life, there's a part of you that you keep making excuses for and saying, I'll interact with that part of myself another time in my life. And this is you saying, nope, I'm always going to put me first, and therefore the momentum trickles out into other parts of it. So I love that for you. Yay! Woo! I would also like to close out this reading by saying, please let me know. I don't know if you heard this in the intro, but I'd love to know what you're doing in June. Are you going to swim by the pool? Are you gonna go for walks? Is there a fun place you are interested in visiting? I'd love to know if you have any plans. Maybe you're just gonna relax and have a good time. I'm curious. In addition to that, please leave this video a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. All of that helps out like you would not believe. It takes 2 seconds and I appreciate it so much. But either way, I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's look at those June predictions by looking at the cards. First, we're going to start with our love section of the reading, which means couples, singles, and self-love. So we have the 8 of Pentacles upright. We have the Judgment card upright, And we have the Page of Swords upright. Okay, let me move these other cards out of the way. Give me just one moment to look at the details of this. Okay, so first we're going to start off with couples. So my spirit guide was telling me that in the Judgment card, you want to ask yourself throughout June that when you speak your mind with your partner, are you speaking your mind because that is what is truly on your mind in the moment? Or is there some leftover frustrations or anger or whatever you're feeling from a previous argument, time that you didn't have a satisfying conclusion with whatever you were disagreeing on, and it's sort of like popping up when you least expect it, and then when you go to express yourself, you're coming more from that place rather than right there in the moment. Now, I want to be clear here. We're not talking about repressing ourselves. we never want to do that. It is good to figure out how you feel and let it out in an appropriate manner and have someone to talk to. These are beautiful things, and being open with our partner is a great thing. But stick with me here as we develop and continue on in the reading for this specific section of it. Instead, what you want to do is you want to practice throughout June the Page of Swords upright and the Eight of Pentacles upright. The Page of Swords has, as you can tell, a much more freer energy behind it. Much more lighthearted, much more low-key. But throughout June, you're more focusing from both speaking your mind, so you are speaking your mind in this, but again, you're coming from a place of, this is how I'm feeling right now in this moment. I'm truly checking in on me and what I feel. But also, I'm aware that I need to get into a state of mind where I'm in the best receiving of whatever my partner wants to say when speaking their mind. Because when I see the subtext of this, I see the frustration of a partner who isn't feeling like they can express themselves. Keep in mind that is not necessarily your responsibility. That is their choice and their action. This is not to shift any blame onto you. This is their own choice. But you're sort of putting out this energy so they can be like, okay, well, this is what I think and feel. And then it's an easier place to get to for both of you because you're both putting your cards on the table. You're both able to then understand where the other one's coming from. But the Page of Swords is like you're in good vibrations. You are, yes, you're open-minded to hearing if it gets deep of whatever's on their mind, but things are being spoken about point blankly in the moment. We're not bringing up the past. We're not bringing up what could have been. And there's a sense of like, okay, good to know. Now we're moving on. It's very much like, hey, letting you know this is how I feel. And you're open and keeping it light. And they're like, well, on some subconscious level, they're like, well, this is what I'm thinking. And you're like, oh, finally, I didn't know what you thought about the situation. And now we're moving on from the situation. Again, when someone is speaking their mind, again, we talked about not repressing it. If you feel in the moment they are, being frustrating and you feel like they're closed off from you, you would take a second to tap into yourself now, not think of the past and, all the times you feel like they're not speaking up or they're being this way. You're going to only come from this moment and say, right now, I was in a good mood. I don't love the energy you're bringing right now. What's going on? And you're just sort of keeping it there, keeping it right now, right here, right now. Not what could have been, what hasn't been, what wasn't concluded in the past. We're just talking about right here. So again, there's this beauty of you getting to express yourself, but also you're kind of giving yourself a break in June away from the past. You're no longer going to let yourself be shaped by it, is the best way I can put it. And then this is also then when we have the Eight of Pentacles come in. You're going to actually take sort of a break from this relationship on an emotional level. I don't mean as in you're checking out or breaking up, or separating from them. I mean, to each their own with whatever you want to do, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about instead of you feeling like it's running through your thoughts, or you notice them, or you're making time and energy for whatever they want to do, or you're being considerate for whatever's for their schedule works for them, you're going to just put you first. And you're going to take a break from even that type of headspace, which is very emotional, very mental, and you're going to just kind of focus on something that you're into. That would be a physical world idea. Maybe there's a fun project or hobby. Maybe you feel like you're a little more dedicated to your career this month and you're putting yourself head first into it. But whatever it is, you're saying to yourself, I don't really need to think about that anymore. Because there is a point where like it's discussed so much, we've gone past the point of it being helpful. And you need some balance in your life. And this is going to give you that stability you're looking for, that break you needed, a place where your head is clear enough where when you do eventually express yourself, you feel like you are saying exactly what you want to say when you say it. And you feel like you are able to be someone who can come from just the moment present, not the past. And again, we're not trying to dismiss your emotions of the past, but we're just giving yourself a break. Think of you're entering this circumstance and relationship, fresh start, and you're going to just speak your mind. And if you don't like something, you don't like something. But if you like something, express it. Don't worry about what you normally think their reaction would be. And then in addition to that, focus on your work and everything like that. And it's just a nice little decompression for both of you to re-understand each other, but most importantly, for you to put yourself back on the top of your list. Because yes, you have a partner, but sometimes we accidentally get consumed in our relationships. It happens. We love each other. We don't mean to turn love into its own work. You know what I mean? Now, singles, you do have actually someone popping up in June, but I am told that this is not the one or anything like that. Instead, this is somebody who's sort of like a trial relationship is the best way to put it. Sometimes we date as a form of practice. Now, I don't want to be I want to be clear, we're not trying to play with anyone's hearts or be inconsiderate, but you date them, you vibe, you both enjoy it enough. But in the long term, you both are like, this was nice, but we can tell that this is not the fireworks in the long term we're both looking for. Nobody's using each other. We're just enjoying our time, building some nice memories, and both becoming better acquainted with what we want mutually together, which is really beautiful. Now, when that is happening over the course of June and you're enjoying this relationship for what it is, you are working on a combination of two things going on. One of them is getting better at receiving compliments. You're going to be really in a headspace where when you are given them, you're going to take a deep breath, you're not going to deny it, and you're going to be like, thank you so much. And you might even want to put that intention out there, not expectation. You're not going to be like, when is this person I'm dating going to say something nice about me? You're not putting that energy out there. Instead, you're just saying, my intention is I am very open for nice compliments. And maybe you notice that they don't give them a lot and you want to then pull back and be like, okay, you know what? I think I wanted more of that. And I already knew this was a trial relationship. I think that's something I want out of the relationship. I'm ready for it. I kept an open, receiving energy in mind for it. And I didn't hear enough of it. I want more. So either way, you're in the moment practicing receiving it and not denying it and pushing it away and being like, thanks, and sort of taking a moment to appreciate that about yourself. Or you're in a state of mind where you're like, if it comes my way, I'm very open to it, and keeping that in mind without pressure on yourself or the other person. In the Eight of Pentacles, just to put it simply and plainly, my spirit guide said that you're going into this learning not to turn relationships into projects. You're not going to hope for the potential of someone and what they could be. You're going to be entering this with the state of mind that they are a person and you date them and you both are who you are and you enjoy each other. But when you start to notice that pop up in this, Or maybe when you're dating this other person, they might not be the person of your dreams, but they are just a person. You both get to just see each other as two people hanging out together. There you go. Perfect. That's what you're looking for, basically. And last but not least on this category, we have self-love, which we're starting off in the judgment pile, which I really liked how my spirit guide put it. They said, in June, you're going to really make sure that you're asking yourself this question. On some subconscious level, are you giving yourself trials in life to sort of prove to yourself that you can overcome it? And it's not really necessary to put yourself through that because you already have learned those lessons. You already know what you're doing. You're already good enough. You already know what's going on and what to do. And being aware when you feel things getting a little difficult, that is in fact you inviting that into your life because you think you need to prove that to yourself. When you notice that, you can just simply stop it real quick. You're going to take a moment to really deeply, meditatively, internally look into yourself, breathe, take a moment, and you're going to go, hey, inner self, we don't need to do this. We're good to go. We're going to remind ourselves that we're good enough and we already know what we're doing. We don't need to learn through contrast anymore. We're good. We're going to be free of this and we're going to let this go. Now, continuing off of that idea in the Page of Swords, let me ask my spirit guide again. What did they say about this? It is also about receiving compliments. Okay, cool. So this is also about that same idea we were just talking about in the singles section, but this is about the idea of you throughout the month, you're going to be practicing receiving compliments. And in addition to that, you are going to practice taking on a new mindset. That's more of the significant thing popping up here. Compliments is just sort of like a sprinkle on top of this. So what I mean by a new mindset, instead of getting Ace of Swords, we got Page of Swords. My spirit guide said this beautifully. So they said, an ace would just be purely brand new, like you need to go find it. In the page, you already know where you would like to take your headspace to be. Because you're exercising your headspace, constantly putting out this narrative internally of like, am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Can I trust myself? Can I trust the universe? Therefore, creating trials and tribulations. You don't need to do that. And you're going to be like, okay, what can I think and be mostly filling my headspace within that isn't constantly creating this narrative to myself? And you already kind of have an inkling of where you would like to regularly think about and contemplate. Maybe it's a creative idea. Maybe you want to contemplate, like sometimes people have a lot of fun watching reality shows and like contemplating other people's lives, that type of thing. Whatever it is, you're just kind of bounce around, do other things, and whatever may have you that you're focusing on, you're going to then enjoy what a page does. They trial and error stuff. They think about it, they exercise that idea, how'd that feel, what that look like, try something else, and everything's very lighthearted because it's new. Usually when you start something new, there's this sense of freedom you give yourself to mess up, and that's very much what's going on in June. You're finally waking up and going, I don't want this anymore. Let me be in a different headspace. And what does that feel like? And having fun exploring that newness and that sense of leniency you're giving yourself permission-wise, which is really beautiful to see what works and what doesn't work. And then in the Eight of Pentacles, you're just going to pretty much enjoy a same concept like couples, exploring and losing yourself in some form of physical concept hobby. You're definitely not worrying about it becoming anything big. With an Eight of Pentacles, it does have the potential of becoming something bigger in the long term that you didn't anticipate, that's for sure. But you're just kind of saying, I've been thinking too much. Let me do something instead. What do we got? What's the opposite of feeling and thinking? We're just going to do something physical going on. So I love that for you. Pretty much awesome for all three of the self-love circumstances and or love category. Now, let's look at the money section, we have got the 9 of Cups upright, 7 of Cups in reverse, and the Magician card. Oh my gosh, I already know what this is. Okay, so let's get into this. So this is awesome for you. Pretty much in the 7 of Cups in reverse, let me just double check with my spirit guide. Yes. Okay, cool. So this is referencing this idea that you're being pulled in many different directions. This could be maybe multiple projects you want to work on. Maybe there's a part of you that wants to give more attention to the career you have now, but then part of you is thinking of a career that could be. Then there's a career where you like have the skills and you could start it and it's different. Maybe it's a different avenue and you just kind of feel a little bit emotionally pulled in a bunch of different ends, and you need to essentially in June pick something. Now here's the cool part. Instead of it just purely saying like, hey, you're being pulled in many different directions, pick something, and just simply left it at that, going forward, my spirit guide is telling me right now this idea where you are on a path once you've chosen it. It can come into fruition because you've created it by choosing it. And if you're worried, oh my gosh, but what if it's the wrong path? You can, in the moment, case by case, situation by situation, option by option, as the path develops, tweak it to be the right path. So even if it wasn't the quote unquote best start or whatever, or the thing, you're thinking it simply as one choice goes here and all the other choices go other places, no matter what you choose, it will be the right path. And that idea makes even more sense when we have the 9 of Cups upright and the Magician card surrounding either side of it. It's not just like a nice thing we're talking and being like, oh no, everything's going to be fine. Because here's the thing. I'm going to level with you. So as a human, and I talk about this actually quite in depth in my Patreon video where I talk about layers of truth, but ultimately as individuals, we really truly are really powerful and capable and full of love and ready and deeply healed. Everything at the core of who we are already there. We are already perfect. We are already our happiest, strongest, best self. We're there. It's already happening. But you are filtering and responding the world that you interact with based on all of these layers. These layers are everything from what you've been through in this lifetime to other lifetimes to many other contributing factors involving society. The list goes on and on and on. And as we gain more truths, have better understandings, heal things, whatever, we basically get closer and closer and closer and closer to tapping into that core center of ourselves and tapping into it more consistently, which is really cool. So on one hand, you'll get responses sometimes from spirit guides or in general where it's like, yeah, everything's going to be okay. And here's the thing. It really will be okay in the long term. It will be. They would let you know if it was like not going to be. But there are parts where they'll be like, oh yeah, you can do this. And you can do this. If at any moment you can pick it and choose it and come from that core part of yourself that can just fully do the concept, whatever it is you need to do. But you might not be, because of the level you're operating at, the layer, you might just be like, I just can't let go of this layer. I'm just not right there yet. And you kind of need to know like, okay, how long is it going to be until I can get past this layer? Maybe I can do it, but I can't do it now. I can do it later. But then in some cases, which I love talking about when they pop up in tarot, it talks about this idea of being like, no, you're there. You're actually there. You're like close to the core. And you can't get any more close to the core when we have both the 9 of Cups and the Magician. The Magician is somebody who knows what they are doing. They are a conscious manifester. They've got everything worked out. They figured it all out. It shows your capability and conscious capability if you give that attention and you wield it and you power yourself up by being like, you know what, I do know what I'm doing. Because you do, in fact, know what you're doing. But then we have the 9 of Cups, the wish card. This is a factor of anything from good fortune to timing to your headspace of receiving and manifesting, and the list goes on. And it says you can get exactly what you want, exactly how you want it. It is the ultimate, like, yay card, yay, a gift, so to speak. So this is talking about saying like, just pick a path, stop pulling yourself apart emotionally in June so you can get your finances more in order and see it all happening. But with that being said, just know that as the path's developing, you will know what to tweak, when to tweak it. You can trust yourself that you will make it happen. And these are the confirmation cards. My spirit guide is like sounding off in agreement with that. That these are your double confirmation cards. You can't get better than that. 2 double confirmation cards out of 3 cards that are saying it's going to happen. You're good. So I love this for you because this is not just a lot of money coming into your way. This is like, and then some, and like an infinite flow of it going through you. Who doesn't love that? Love that for you. Then, now that we've got it all set up, let's go into spirituality. And I just want to be clear about this. We've got 6 of Swords upright, Queen of Swords in reverse. Ooh, 9 of Pentacles, Elvira. We'll talk about her in 1 second. When we come to this section of the reading, spirituality is in everything, every concept, the way you think, the way you approach things, how you flow, how you move, your blockages, what you do, your choices you make, the choices you made in the past. I mean, it's sort of interwoven, the in-between of everything. So that's where we're coming from when we're looking at this section. And give me just 1 second to look at this so I can consult my spirit guides. Okay, so first off, before we even get into this, because we're going to actually talk about this, there is a memoir by Elvira I read recently. It is so good. If you're looking for something good to read, or you want to like enjoy audiobooks or something like that, highly recommend it. It's so good. Not sponsored in any way, just genuinely really liked the book. But keeping that in mind, my spirit guide was actually talking about this individual to begin with. So Elvira is an extremely confident lady. She pretty much always really like spoke her mind and was straight up and just kind of chose to a certain degree to wield her confidence. But what really worked for her, and when everything came together, especially financially, was when she understood who she was, like on a more specific level, and figured out, how do I express that? So this is you in June being like, okay, so I've actually always been capable. Again, we're going back to what we were talking about in the financial part, which is really cool. And I want to be my best self, but what is that exactly? Like for Elvira, she really figured out that she was a funny person. She loved like old scary movies, and she was like, she loved being an improvisational, what's it called? An improv, like, I don't know if you'd call them actors. She acted too, but like somebody who was doing it for comedic effect and everything like that. And she figured out how to bring these all together to get, well, technically somebody offered her the audition, but the point is, it was like everything came together. The more and more as time went on, she would self-reflectively express out to the universe, I want more of this. This is the better version of who I am. This is where my skills really reside, and so on and so forth. So you in June are taking sort of ownership of who you are and really understanding that. And you don't need to make a list. Maybe just sort of say out loud to yourself, what are you good at? What do you like? And be honest. Are you somebody who's really skilled at being observational? Are you funny? Is there some sort of hobby you overlook but you're good at? And you're just going to put that all together, and you don't need to say to yourself, this is my career, this is what I'm doing. You can just sort of be like, okay, maybe you're good at reading books. We were just talking about that. And maybe you start thinking about, oh, you're really good at capturing people's attention when telling other people about what happened in the book. Maybe you start to think, oh, what if I did something with this? What if I made a blog? Or what if I expressed it, making like video content or something like that, and so on and so forth. And again, you don't have to do this for like a career. I'm just giving an example. You can wield this in any way you choose. Nine of Pentacles is usually associated with a career-based type of person benefiting from their finances, and we were just talking about, so something food for thought essentially. But that's like a main focus for you in June, is like really just taking ownership of who you are, pepping it up with compliments. We talked about that in the love portion, and then understanding what that specifically is and not compromising to be that version of yourself. And that's something important my spirit guide was saying, not compromising. But that's important to understand what I just said on a greater detail and being proactive about it, because of what we got going on, the Queen of Wands and the Six of Swords in reverse. There is the potential that this could be a little hard to get to, or you know what? Let's not manifest that for you. It's more that it doesn't need to be difficult, but the only thing that could make it difficult, just simply connecting and understanding this, is what is we have going on in the Queen of Wands in reverse. Keep in mind, Six of Swords is still the confirmation, you'll get there. But the idea is that the only thing that could make it slow down, make it unnecessarily harder, because it's easy for you to figure out who you are and express it the way you want to express it, where you feel like you're truly being yourself all the time in a very, again, proactive way, is the Queen of Wands in reverse is saying, this is you saying, I'm not experienced enough. I don't know what I'm doing. You gotta stop. You do know what you're doing. You have enough experience. It might not be exactly perfectly in this exact field or way of expression, but that doesn't mean you haven't had other life experiences that didn't prepare you for these moments. So you gotta catch yourself when you're doing that, because you actually do know what you're doing. You have enough experience, you have enough skill, you have enough talent. All you gotta do is basically pep yourself up, if you will, and give yourself compliments. Figure out specifically what it is, and then go for it and have a great time. So I love this for you. Please, I said this in the intro, but I'm repeating it again for all the groups. I genuinely would love to know for June, what are you doing? How are you going to spend it? Do you have any plans? Are you going to relax? Are you going to hang out by the pool? Are you going to read something? Are you going to just take the month off to relax? Are you going to go visit friends? What are you going to do? Please let me know in the comments below, and also let me know in the comments below what you think of this reading overall. I'd love to know your opinions or your insight as per usual. And please leave this video a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. All of this helps out so much, and it just takes a moment. And have a wonderful day. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and let's get ready for our final group number 4. Group number 4. Let's look at your June predictions by looking at the cards, and we're going to start with our first part of the reading, which is the love category, which is for couples, singles, and self-love. So everybody is included as per usual. We have 5 of Cups upright, the Strength card in reverse, and the 5 of Pentacles in reverse. Give me just one moment to look at the details of everything and consult my spirit guides, and I'll be with you in one moment. Okay. Okay, so first let's start with couples in the 5 of Pentacles in reverse. So it's kind of it's good news, but good news through talking about difficult ideas. So in the 5 of Pentacles in reverse, I'm happy to say in June, both you and your partner let go of karma. And this is interesting. Normally, I hear it used with the spirit guides as a way to express an idea of the past lives that we experienced, and how we don't realize how they can still unconsciously affect us. And the thing is, and the reality is that we build this up in each individual lifetime. So right now, currently, you are creating it. Now, the cool thing is, not only can you heal the past, but you can heal the current. And I was told that both of you are going to be free of this karma that the two of you have created in this lifetime, which makes me feel like there's a lot. That's the impression I'm getting. And remember, this is the way it is for all karma, but I'm definitely feeling it with you guys. It's this feeling of stuff you can't let go of. The last word, energy. It feels like there's so much between the two of you of wanting to interact, not liking how interactions go. You get the gist. And I'm happy to say in June, there's this feeling of both of you being like, let us just both, we're done. We're letting it go. But in that choice, you are also letting go of a potential cycle that could repeat. And even if in the long term, let's say you didn't let go of this karma, you stayed together, it could keep repeating itself. Or let's say you didn't stay together, it would be this feeling of this heaviness in your life you can tell was there, and it feels unresolved and kind of leaks out in other parts of your life. And the beautiful thing is both of you in June are like, we're done. It's both a decision that, and here's the crazy thing, when you want to release karma, that's all you're doing. You're acknowledging what it was that happened, and you're deciding to come at it from a better headspace and just say, I'm making the decision to fathom the idea, acknowledge the idea, and let it go. Now, the cool thing is, not only are you freeing this, so there's this feeling of like relief for both of you, which is great, and obviously that is a lot of pressure that definitely influences the other parts of the relationship that will be let go of, which is great. But also in June, you guys are going to be free simultaneously of circumstances that are out of both of your control. So things that would feel like they are outside of the relationship, but then affect the relationship by proxy of it. It feels kind of almost like a reflection, if you will, where this sense of chaos, not quite sure where things are starting and where they end and how they end, and not loving the conclusion of some conversations or whatever, feels like they sort of reflect in your environment. And then that only adds to the circumstances, and you're not quite sure what anyone's frustrated about anymore, that type of thing. And then suddenly it's gone and let go of. So love that for you in both the personal aspect, but it's nice not to feel like things are out of our control, because that's not the reality. It might feel like that at times, and it's not fun to be in those circumstances, but it's great when you feel like, you can breathe, things feel balanced again, within harmony, they don't feel like randomly coming at you, which is great. And then last but not least is a big one. And this is what I mean by the positiveness of what I'm telling you, but being able to be self-aware enough and accountable enough to have a bit of a difficult conversation. So the two of you basically come to conclusions in June of the reality that both of your attitudes have caused this. Both of you could have approached the relationship in a different way, spoken a different way to one another. You're aware that the frustrations you felt towards each other started to only be the thing coming through, and there's this a responsibility both of you take on, and awareness that you're both adding to it, and realize that you can look at it in a different way, approach it in a different way. You know, that idea of like, do I still approach my partner with the respect that I'm hoping to get in return, and be them asking themselves that and realizing like, what are we doing? We love each other, and realizing that it can only get better if you're aware of that, and then therefore take responsibility to not keep perpetuating the same cycles over and over again. And we beautifully have that confirmed that won't be or like you both will end the cycle, which is great. So yay, it's like a sense of relief in June, but it's definitely not necessarily like immediate hugs and kisses. It's a sense of like, oh, finally we can just be a couple. Great. We can just live, which is awesome. And then for singles, now this is different for singles. In the Strength card in reverse, my spirit guide said they did see somebody coming your way interested in you. But basically, I'm so sorry. When I do these readings, I breathe too quickly. Like I'm speaking. Oh, whoops, I didn't breathe. Sharp inhale in. Oh, goodness, that was too quick. You know what I mean? So tell me, please, in the comments below, do you deal with that when just generally talking to people? So in the Strength card in reverse, there is somebody interested, but my spirit guide basically was like, heed their warning, don't interact with them. Don't give them any leeway. When people say, oh, I'm not interested in them, but then they keep talking to them. Don't talk to them, cut it off, don't get interested, because here's the reason why. On one hand, they are attractive and very alluring, and so it's a little too tempting when you're single right now to not want to interact with them and not want to see where it goes and kind of being like, no, I'm keeping my distance, but you can't help but get more and more roped in. And the reason why you don't want to get roped in with them is my spirit guide said that they just don't have a good handle on what they want their dreams to be, and there's a bit of a very much like in the Strength card when we think of the beast being taken care of by the individual right here, you're going to be put in a position where because they can't manage their own dreams and goals, they will by proxy and unconsciously and intentionally and intentionally, this is correct, right? I'm just asking my spirit guide. Oh, absolutely correct. Okay, good. That they will basically put that on you. And you don't deserve that, because before you know it, you'll be like, oh no, I want to have them have their dreams and beliefs come true. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, 3 years later, I hate this. This isn't the life I wanted. And again, because it's just, they're so tempting, they pull you in, and you just don't need to go through that essentially. The main thing instead you want to focus on, June, besides just being aware to recognize this individual and then stay away from them, is what's going on over here. In the Five of Pentacles in reverse, this is you practicing letting go of the idea that you are unlovable. Not only is this simply not true at all, but this is sort of like a motif that you've been practicing in your head, that whenever we get a Five of Pentacles card showing up upright or reverse, it very much for me is associated with this idea of active manifestation. What are we putting out into our life and attracting in by our perspectives or attitudes towards ourselves or our work or whatever, may have you. Not only is this not fun for you to experience on a personal level, and you could be living your happiest, best self because there is only you and you're pretty wonderful. And I mean this sincerely and deeply. I'm not saying this just to repeat it as a sort of nice affirmation. I mean this genuinely. Everybody truly has something absolutely special and wonderful and lovable about them that you can't quite put into words. But trust me, when you walk into a room, it does shine brighter. And why not? You live this one life, why not enjoy it? So not only would we love you to have a better life, and that's something my spirit guides are telling me. They were like, tell them we love them. So they love you. I love you too. But in addition to that, it is something that is sort of like mirroring, I'm getting the feeling, in your romantic life, and you don't deserve to have it come back at you just to sort of give you the message of being like, hey, by the way, you're doing this. Instead of having that message come interact with you, you want to heal it so that when you interact with whoever you want to invite in your life, you're like, cool, I'm feeling great, you're feeling great, you're not making me feel more unlovable because you're trying to deliver to me this message that I should work on. I'm receiving the message now. That's what we always talk about in tarot and why I'm so enthusiastic about it. With tarot, at any moment, at any time of day, you can beautifully look at whatever needs to be seen, and if it's a little bit difficult, it's initially hard to hear, it's only hard to hear, but then you can fathom it, understand it, solve it, and basically skip all the uncomfortable life lesson learning that you just don't need to experience. Now, going forward though, with that being the case, you were only doing this because my spirit guide said there was a point in your life where you experienced intense grief. That is understandable. This is what is sort of the byproduct of that. Now, what you're going to do in June is you are going to actively work on healing that. Now, you still need to be responsible in the sense of being self-aware when you start to practice little, oh, but not me, I wouldn't be good enough, of course they didn't pick. You have to stop. You're actively giving it energy and attention the more you feed it and repeat it. If you feel it coming on, you can either repeat something that's the opposite, that you are good enough, or oftentimes I find it's more helpful to sort of just catch yourself, stop yourself from expressing it at all. Give yourself a second to breathe, think, come back at it with a different headspace, maybe a few minutes or hours later, and then just take a second to be like, you know what? Why not me? Why wouldn't I be good enough? Of course I'm good enough. You see what I'm saying here? Beautiful. Love that for you. But you are also going to actively work on the grief as well. So it's kind of a, like, two things going on here. Now, continuing on. Then we have self-love. Self-love in the Strength card, my spirit guide said that there is something you've been neglecting for a while that you're going to give attention to in June. So this is anything from like your career. Do you feel like there's a part of yourself that you haven't, like just general expressing your own personal opinions, whatever it may be? What avenue, part of yourself, you've been actively denying, avoiding, not giving attention? And remember, just like you are proactively over here for singles, not, saying these unkind things about yourself, if you need to express yourself more, actively say randomly, hey, I like this, I don't like this. Like, share your opinions actively if that's the part of yourself that you've been denying for a while. Now, in these other two cards, I was told that in June, and I see that in June, the month is going to be a little bit heavy. But sometimes, and keep this in mind, we're just giving you the truth, sometimes in order to get out, you got to go through. So it's going to get better, I'm happy to say, but it's like you processing stuff that's needed to be processed for a while. There is a lot of empowerment and finally giving love and attention to something that's been needing it for a while. But then once you push through all of it, you are going through it in order to understand it, finally heal it, look at it, give it the attention it deserves. There's just a deep sense of like, relief. So I love that for you. Now that we looked at love, let's look at money. Got 6 of Swords in reverse, 8 of Swords in reverse, and the 3 of Wands upright. Oh, I'm just looking at the cards for a second, talking to my spirit guides. Sorry about that interruption. Going back on to what we were just saying. So in the 3 of Wands, it talks of this idea of somebody reaching back out to you, like you've been putting out prospects for a while. For a while, let me ask. My spirit guide was like, for a while. Okay, so you're going to be hearing back from them, which is awesome. Love that for you. But the only thing sort of standing in your way of this becoming something, from the receiving to the letting it becomes, you hear back from them and then it develops and it becomes a tete-a-tete back and forth type of thing, is going on here in the 8 of Swords in reverse and the 6 of Swords in reverse, which I'm happy and delighted to say that both of these cards are in reverse, giving us a double confirmation that they're not going to be a problem. Like, we're talking about the problem, but we're for sure seeing that you will overcome it. So in the 8 of Swords in reverse, again, this goes back to this idea of, it makes me think about the unlovable version, the unworthy of love type of mindset. This is somebody who sees limitation in themselves. So the universe can only give you what you think that you could possibly achieve. So this is thinking, oh, I'm not the right person for the job, or when you imagine growth and abundance, you see it up to a certain point, or the date in which that you could get an acceptance or have something better happen. Again, it's that idea of like, it only goes to a point. And essentially you're going to say to yourself, the only difference, and this is what my spirit guide was also telling me when I was looking at the cards, the only difference between you getting this thing and seeing how far it can go, and other people who get it, is not a matter of being good enough. You are good enough. You're just not giving yourself that attention. Is making the active choice to say, if all I got to do is quote unquote buy a ticket to get on this plane or bus to go down this path being the thing that you've wanted for a while, this getting this response and having it develop, it's just a choice. You're just getting there. People who get what they want, I'm going to let you in a little secret, don't always fully love themselves. They're not in the best headspace. There are so many people who are wildly successful. Their fame is known even to this day, decades later, and they weren't in the best position in life. They didn't think they were good enough or worth it. So keep in mind, you do not need to be perfectly in the best headspace, be totally healed to get it. But you do need to make the decision that you could have it, that it's a possibility and you're getting on that road to possibility. Now, with that being said, there's also the Six of Swords in reverse, which again is this headspace of like somebody who is practicing the idea that things need to be hard or they need to take a while. That's the biggest thing I'm picking up from this card, this idea that it will take a while. Again, nothing is stopping you from hearing back from this other individual and them immediately being like, oh my gosh, yeah, you got the job. You got this opportunity. You got the promotion. You are going to get this thing that's going to make you more money and you get to go on a fun little vacation. I mean, whatever it is, you can just have it immediately. No, there's no reason it needs to take longer. You just need to practice it. But I can psychically feel so strongly there is another layer to this. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's so dense. I can feel it in you so hard. It's like you're afraid that if you pick it, that you choose it. It's like you'll pick it and choose it, but what if you don't see proof immediately? That's what it is. That's what it is. Okay, I'm going to let you in a little secret. When you manifest, it is a skill. If you were kicking a soccer into a goal and, you were initially good at it, you wouldn't think, oh, I didn't get it in the first time. Done. I'll never be a soccer player. I can never play soccer. We're done. You need to develop the practice. And also, fun fact, people who are successful aren't waiting on proof. They just are like, yep, it's a good idea. I'm going to be successful. Boom, done. We're done. Again, you don't have to be totally perfectly in this mindset to absolutely know that, because, we're all coming from different places and that might be a lot to ask of yourself. But you could at the minimum say, I'm practicing. I'm practicing being in this headspace. I'm practicing seeing that I'm infinite, that things could happen immediately. You're practicing it. And the more you practice it, the more possible it can be, the better you'll be at the skill, the more it will naturally come out of you, the more you speak into existence with the you want, the more you'll get back. Do you see what I'm saying here? So just you're working with what you can fathom and know. You know what I mean? So love that for you. Now let's look at spirituality. And I talked about this before. We've got the High Priestess in reverse, the Magician in reverse, and the Three of Wands. I told you okay, sorry, hold on. I knew I sensed something. Okay, so before I read this, what I was going to say was spirituality is everything from our decisions we make to our choices, to what we feel drawn to, what we want to explore, the way we explore it, the list goes on and on. So because that's the case, we're talking about sort of the in-between layer of everything going on. And that's what mostly this part of the reading is about, basically. So the reason why I got all excited, this very much carries on from the theme of the money portion of the reading. In the Three of Wands in reverse, which funny enough, we actually have Three of Wands over here. Now the two are unrelated in the sense that we already know in the Three of Wands upright, you're going to hear back from somebody, about that thing you wanted. But this is more talking about this general sense of communication with yourself. This is important. Because you could have gotten, with the Three of Wands, you could have gotten a different type of card that talked about the idea of communication. It's funny because the Magician card and the High Priestess card are very communicative as well. But when we look at a Three of Wands scenario, this is about messages going back and forth. It's about acknowledging your importance in June, that whenever you actively connect to whatever it is you want to express, and you actively say out into the universe, this is what I want, or you let someone know, hey, that opportunity, I'd like it, or hey, I think you're cute, I'd like to get to know you, whatever it is, you put it out there much more often, you are then creating an avenue where you can hear back. And this is where it's really interesting. This is an idea that will make sense in time as you explore more of my readings, or you're familiar with my work on Patreon and stuff I'm going to talk about more and more. But through my own personal explorations of deep conversations, I'm constantly talking to the spirit guides and developing more and more knowledge about the universe and understanding how things work. And I'm always trying to understand how it all ties together and bring it back and share it so you guys can wield it to your benefit. But interestingly enough, what's going on in one perspective of everything is that everything is a conversation with the universe. Everything is an idea that you're exploring and you're saying, what about this? And the universe is like, yeah, what about that? And you're like, what about if I did this? And the universe is like, yeah, and then what if it looked like that? And you're just sort of going back and forth. And the funny thing about it is, if you were having a conversation you wouldn't like, you could actively be like, oh, let's change the conversation. And the universe would be like, yeah, that's fine. Sure, I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And so when you realize that every time you're manifesting in this kind of way, you're both not only letting off of your chest what you want, and there's a sense of relief and saying, this is how I feel, but you're also in turn putting out there what you want and opening a conversation with the many factors that could possibly come into play with your life. And you're saying, I am ready and open to receive. I am ready and open to hear back, but you got to put it out there to get it back. And this is what's going on in June. You are aware of that. You are practicing that. But something I see that's sort of like a hindrance, but something to consider as both a compliment. When we have the Magician card and High Priestess card, while they mean their own individual thing I'm going to express in one moment, they tend to pop up when people are, it's also the opposite. And this will make sense in one moment. So let's go over what these mean, and I'm going to come back to that idea. In the Magician in reverse, this represents somebody who is having imposter syndrome going on. So you're just like, well, yeah, but like, I'm not good enough. Again, that unlovable part of yourself that you think is there. It's not there. I understand if you're feeling it's there. It's not. It's one perspective you have of yourself. Many other people think you're wonderful, and in time you will understand that as well. And then in the High Priestess card, this is somebody who is in a poor sense of intuition with themselves because they are concerned, and this is the interesting part, you can practice and wield good intuition, but the reason why you're not is you're concerned what everybody else will think. Like you're worried again about that proof. Again, we talked back to this idea, the idea of proof. Because, now let's turn these cards upright and talk about how simultaneously this gives the subtext that you in fact are actually the opposite version of these things. You're just not in a headspace where you can like fathom it and realize it. But the High Priestess, normally when she's upright, is somebody who is deeply connected to the truth. The truth sometimes, well, it exists whether people are aware of it or not. And sometimes it just takes other people a while before they sort of realize what is happening and connect to that and get it. And what I mean by that statement is she's somebody who's like, hey, you know that person that you're all vibing with? They're not a good person. Everyone's like, what do you mean? Blink's such a great guy. And you're like, okay, well, I know they're not. And then they are not concerned with if everybody else in the community goes, oh, you're so judgmental. How would you even know that? They seem like a perfectly nice guy to me. And they might initially turn their back on the high priestess. But she goes, okay, well, I know myself. I know my intuition. This is what I'm picking up. And she doesn't get swayed by them. Eventually, the community does realize they're not great. They come back and they go, oh, you were right. What do we do about this? And you can think of that on a more major level as well. Over time, the community does eventually realize that whether they can see it or not, she always can. So again, she is not relying on the proof of what everyone else thinks in order for her to then trust her judgment. Sometimes your intuition is going to be working in a way the mass isn't. And you have to be willing to go, that's not the right place I want to go, that's not the person I want to hang out with, whatever it may be, and not worry about if your intuition aligns with everybody else agreeing with you. You're going to have to kind of go out on your own a little bit and practice that. Going forward, we also have the Magician card, who does in fact know what he's doing. He knows what he's doing incredibly. He's got all of his emotions healed and under control. He really is in charge of his mind and knows how to wield it. He is connected to energy and understand what that exactly means and how it can be utilized. And he is incredibly good at being able to interact with both the physical and the non-physical world going on. So this is a capability and a possibility that is residing in you, but in both of these scenarios, you're just not giving it the juice, the power, the attention, the proactiveness to interact with it, to realize it. So this is both a compliment party that we're having for you and saying, like, give yourself more credit where credit is due, but you'd actually need to regularly give yourself credit if you're going to ever get to enjoy the full benefit of what's already there. And there's some great stuff hanging out there. So, with all that in mind, I've been asking everyone on this, but I'm genuinely, for fun and curious sake, wondering, what are you guys doing for June? I know this is like a totally 180 from where we were over here, but I'm just curious in the comments below. Are you going to the pool? Are you hanging out, taking the month off, visiting a friend, doing anything special? I genuinely would love to know. And please also let me know what you think of this reading in the comments below. Also, please give this video a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It helps out this channel like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And goodbye.